Hey, Being at Work listeners, welcome back to another episode. This is your host, Andrea Butcher, and I have a futurist on the podcast today. So over the last 5 years, as you know, post-pandemic, organizations have been scrambling. And in an effort to attract and retain talent, we've lowered standards, we've chased the perks, we've tried to be everything to everyone. And what's ended up happening is many organizations have abandoned the fundamentals that make them work. Culture got confused with comfort. Leaders became hesitant to actually lead, and accountability weakened in the process. Organizations lost their way. So my guest today, Jacob Morgan, believes it's time to get back to the basics and also boldly prepare for the future. Jacob, in addition to being a futurist, is a best-selling author whose sixth book, yes, I said sixth, that's amazing. The book, The 8 Laws of Employee Experience, How to Build a Future-Ready Organization, has just become available. So check it out. In the book, he highlights conversations from over 100 CHRO interviews from companies like Hilton, IBM, Delta, Verizon. Jacob distills their insights into these 8 laws that create organizations rooted in accountability, growth, purpose, and long-term thinking in an AI-driven world. So listen into our conversation. We'll start with why companies have lost their way. Jacob will highlight the 8 laws that define future-ready employee experience. Grab a pen and paper. You're going to love them. Jacob also talks about the role of AI. I loved our conversation around, of course, all of the reasons AI is helpful to the employee experience, but he talks about a couple of reasons where it can be harmful. I loved that. I'm not going to give it away. I just want to tease it up. I also really love how he talks about how much the organization owns and how much the employee owns in shaping the organization. He talks about how we've lost our way a bit there. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So it's a lot that I just highlighted.
I was just going to say.
We've got a tall order. But start with some context. Why this book right now?
A few reasons. So I wrote a book called The Employee Experience Advantage that came out in 2017. And that book became one of the best-selling employee experience books ever. And in it, I argued that employee experience was a combination of 3 environments that companies can design and control for, which are culture, technology, and space. And that book did really well, and it was very, very relevant, and it still is relevant. But more and more, a lot of the organizations that I would work with, they would ask me if I had plans to either write an update to that book or a new employee experience book, because a lot has changed over the past 10 years. Whether you look at technology, whether you look at obviously going through a pandemic, I mean, there's just been a lot of change in the world. And so people were very interested in trying to get a sense of not just where employee experience is now, but where's it going to go over the next 5 to 10 years. And so I thought that would be a really interesting challenge and a thing to try to explore. And that's why I interviewed 100 chief human resource officers. And I asked them about trends and things they're paying attention to and evolutions they're going through, mistakes that they've made. And originally, this was just going to be an update to that book. I was going to leave some of the core components there and just make some tweaks to other areas. And after doing these interviews, I realized, wow, I have a whole new book here. And more and more, to your point that you mentioned in the intro, is that a lot of companies over the past few years have completely lost their way. And the whole premise of the book is, how do we get back to focusing on the core things that matter at work? And that's what these 8 laws are.
Oh my gosh. Did it become pretty clear early in your interview process that we have a whole new book?
I'd say after the first 10 or so CHROs, when I would hear some of the things that they were saying and when I would challenge them on a lot of things and they didn't, they were kind of like, well, yeah, we're thinking about that. We're not sure. I'd be like, okay, there's something, there's a problem here. And the more and more I would dive deep into these conversations and see this common trend and pattern amongst these companies, who are collectively responsible for millions of employees, I realized, okay, there's something here.
And you distilled it as in many organizations have lost their way. Why? Like, what do you attribute that to?
Oh, many things. I think largely the pandemic was kind of a core impetus for this, right? During and post pandemic, I feel like a lot of organizations tried to be anything and everything to anybody. They were overly indexed on being inclusive. And when I say inclusive, I mean they were wanting to bring in anybody, regardless if they were aligned with the values or the vision or the direction of the company or not. And I think more and more we need leaders to step up and to be strong leaders and say, no, we don't want to be inclusive to everybody. We want to be exclusive, meaning we want a specific type of person to work at this company who aligns with our values, our direction, the products and services that we're trying to create. This is who we are, and we want you to be aligned with that. And organizations just didn't do that during and post-pandemic because they were so desperate to attract and retain talent that they were just kind of like, we'll take you. We don't care what you think or what your values are or what you believe in, or if you're like, here, can you do this? And it just became this kind of mad dash for people instead of focusing on the right people. Mm-hmm. I think that's been one big one. I think the entitlement culture is very much real. More and more, I would talk to a lot of CHROs. They would tell me these ridiculous stories about entitlement inside their companies. And when I would ask them, hey, can I use that story in the book? They'd say, no. I'd say, I don't understand, but we just did an interview. You gave me this great story. Why can't I use it? They would say, well, we don't want to be viewed as anti-employee. And I would hear this a lot from CHROs. They were honest that the entitlement culture is real, but they don't want to talk about it. They don't want their name associated with it. They don't want their company or their brand associated with it. So that was a very, very telltale sign for me. And I just feel like, the way that we think about change and transformation was not aligned. Where a lot of organizations were thinking change is supposed to happen much faster than it is. They weren't giving enough time. A lot of CHROs were forgetting that their role is evolving and they're becoming chief future of work officers, and HR is becoming like the future of work team. And there was just a lot of these challenges that I saw with organizations, and it made me realize that, hey, these companies they've completely lost their way. They're focusing on the wrong things and they have no idea what's coming next.
That's the first time I've heard a CHRO referred to as a chief future of work officer. I really appreciate that reframe.
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that 100%.
Well, and you're naturally setting us up for the 8 laws that you highlight in the book, the 8 laws of employee experience. Talk at a high level about these laws. What are they designed to solve?
So the whole point of these 8 laws was to basically say that organizations were completely adrift. They forgot about the core nature of work, which is about mutually beneficial value exchange. They forgot about what it means to know their people. They just forgot about work. They became so obsessed with perks and with benefits and with things like empathy and creating safe spaces and just doing anything that they could to get people to stay there, that they forgot about the work itself. They forgot about the performance. They forgot about standards. They forgot about accountability. They forgot about everything. And so the whole point of these 8 laws is to say, look, if you want to build a future-ready organization, one that is not just able to survive over the coming years, but is actually able to thrive and to shape the future of work, these are the core 8 things that you need to do. These are the core 8 things that matter most for any successful organization over the next decade. And that's essentially what these 8 laws are. And if you want, I can go through each one and maybe give you like a sentence about each one.
That'd be super helpful.
Okay. So the first law is the concept of decoding the human signal. And it's basically know your people. Know your people not just on a human level, but on a technology level. So in other words, we're so obsessed with surveys and engagement surveys and pulse surveys and this and that. And those things are great, but you also need to know your employees on a human level, right? The leader needs to know the people that they are responsible for. The second law is act with empathetic excellence. And acting with empathetic excellence came as a result of the backlash that we've seen with DEI and with merit. And, there's just been this whole debate back and forth. And the concept of act with empathetic excellence is to say that there are 3 core things that organizations should be focusing on when it comes to talent, whether it's new talent or existing: competence, merit, and empathy. Competence is the ability that you have to do your job and to do an amazing job. Merit is how you get rewarded for doing the job that you have the competence to do. And empathy is seeing the employee as a whole. In other words, their aspirations, their fears, the challenges that they had to overcome. Empathy is not what it has become for so many organizations, lowering the bar. It's giving employees an opportunity to rise to meet the bar. And that's a big difference because during the pandemic, a lot of organizations lowered the bar. They lowered it to the bare minimum standards. And we saw this across the board. We can get into more detail on that, but we just saw this across the board. Educational institutions, companies, bars were either lowered or they disappeared altogether. And so this is to acknowledge empathy is not removing that. It's saying, hey, we're going to give you a chance to meet the bar because we understand what you had to go through. We understand your challenges. We understand what you want to achieve, and we're going to give you the opportunity to do it. Law number 3 is grow or go. And it's to say that learning is a new form of job security. Your opportunity to learn new things and grow within the company is a form of job security. So what does that look like? How do you do it? Law number 4 is design for flexibility. And flexibility, not just in terms of where employees work, but in how they shape their career path. So, I have a lot of stories and visuals in the book, but kind of think about it as knobs on a dial that you can adjust to shape your career path going forward. Number 5 is make people the first principle. So a lot of companies talk about putting people first, but very few actually do it. So I talk about, what does that look like? What does that mean? Lead like the experience starts with you. And this is a call to all the leaders out there who keep assuming that employee experience is HR's job and it's, somebody else's responsibility. It's actually your responsibility more than anyone else's. Number 7 is use technology to amplify humanity, not to replace it. So when we think about things like AI and all these great tools and technologies out there, how do we use it to unlock the potential of people instead of diminish it? And the last one is run culture like an operating system. So just like you have software on your phone or on your laptop that you have to debug, that goes through updates and stuff like that, your culture needs to be the same way. And so these 8 laws together, and again, I dive into a lot of detail into each one of these are the collective 8 laws of employee experience.
Yeah, and all of them, it is the collection of them too, where I see so much power.
Yeah.
You talked about this in the why, but it's like the collection of these bring accountability, clarity, purpose. They bring it back, don't they?
Yeah.
And you highlighted this with number 6, that, it starts with you. It's the leader. It's not an HR problem. I suspect you would say that about all of the laws, right? That they are the business laws, not HR's job.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not a HR book. So one of the things that I talk about at the very beginning, I say, this is not an HR book. This is a leadership book. This is a business book. This is for everybody. Don't just buy this and give this to your HR people and say, hey, do this. Like if you're a leader or you want to be a leader or you have a job or want to have a job, like this book is for you.
Yes. Very much so. And particularly, I think about like the executive team and the impact that they have. Everything flows downhill from that group. It's like you get these things right, you rally around them. It's going to make life so much easier for everybody.
Yep, absolutely.
Which law, like if you had to say there's one that's more important, is the sequencing purposeful?
No. To your point, you need these 8 laws to work in tandem, right? So, if you only focus on, let's say, 3 of them and ignore the 5, it's hard to say, you're not going to have a future ready organization. So you need to collectively do all 8 of these things and do them well. So the order is not necessarily something to pay attention to. And it's hard to pick if there's one law that's most important, because I can make the argument for any law that you pick. If you don't do this one, then this one's not going to do as well. So they all kind of play together. But if you have some that you want to go into detail, we can go pick any laws that you want.
Well, their mind, a lot of it is like cultural mindset, like the running culture like an operating system and knowing your people. At the heart of both of those is like a real care for the experience.
Yeah.
That you're creating. And it's intentionality also, recognizing, putting any of these in play says like you are intentional about creating a culture that's purposeful, that's driven by something bigger.
Yeah, if you don't have intention behind anything, culture exists whether you are there and playing a role or not. It's not as if you don't do anything, your culture doesn't exist. It exists. It's just shaped by the employee perceptions. It's shaped by external forces. It's shaped by what people see and hear.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that your culture doesn't exist. It just means that you are not shaping it and controlling it. And why would you want that?
And why would you want that?
Yeah, if you have a company and you want people aligned to your values and the direction of the business, why would you not want to shape the culture and let everyone just kind of float around like leaves in the wind? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and it's the same thing around like goal setting and visioning for our lives. I've been talking so much, here we are in a new year, about the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Yep.
Same thing for culture. The best way to shape and predict your future, your culture, is to create it. And these 8 laws give you real intention around that. So put your futurist lens on. Like, why these for this time? And is this for the next 10 years? Is this the next 5 years? What do you see in the future that is driving these laws?
Yeah, it's definitely for the next 5 to 10 years. So the whole premise of the book, I actually spell that out. I say, around the next, 5 to 10 years, but I looked out around 10 years. And there's a framework that I have at the beginning of the book called STEEPLE. And STEEPLE it's a futurist framework. Anybody can look it up. It's an acronym that stands for social, technology, economic, environment, political, legal, and ethical. And sort of the way that I look at it is these are kind of broad categories where we're seeing change happen. And in the book, I don't go through, I give an example of each one, but there are going to be a lot of trends that you point to for each of them. So for example, if you look at the social forces, right, that's the first S. There's a lot of things that we're seeing around the social force. So you see multi-general collaboration. We're seeing a lot of talk around the loneliness epidemic, strong emphasis on things like purpose and meaning at work. When you look at technology, you see hyper-personalization conversations. We see AI and augmented workflows, immersive workspaces, continuous feedback ecosystems. And again, not all of these things are perhaps in existence today, but this is where over the next 5 to 10 years. If you look at the economic forces, skill-based pay models and skill-based organizations that we're talking about, career fluidity, so making lateral moves, having internal talent marketplaces, portfolio careers has been another topic of conversation as well. So I kind of go through each one of these things. I'll touch on one more, like the political forces we're seeing, whether it's labor movements and unions, whether it's global talent mobility and any restrictions that might be there, remote work legislation and expansion. There's a big debate between free speech and having a safe culture. So you see some organizations come out there and say, we want to ban this type of conversation. Other organizations are saying, well, you can talk about anything, but let's just do it in the right way. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the world. And so I go through each one of those steeple forces and highlight maybe 5 or so trends for each one of those categories. But it all goes to show that there's a lot of change happening in the world of work. And I don't think a lot of organizations are really paying attention to it and understanding it. And that's the whole premise of these 8 laws, is to how do you adapt and kind of shape the future of work based on these forces.
Yeah, where to put your intention and your energy.
Yep.
Let's talk about AI. Anytime right now I'm thinking about workforce and future, of course, AI is going to be in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
How is it helpful to the employee experience in the future?
I think it's enormously helpful. You can look at any one of these 8 laws. Look, for example, at how do you know your people? Think about the awesome power that AI brings to leaders across the board around the insights that they can draw, being proactive.
Good point.
Right? Knowing what your employees care about, when they might potentially be disengaged, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Like, there's tremendous opportunity that AI can bring to knowing your people. Look at the law of grow or go, for example, which is the idea of job security tied to learning and growth. Think about how powerful AI can be for shaping your career path and trajectory going forward. As far as, you can be in a company and say, hey, I'm in marketing and I want to transition into HR. How do I do that? And you can use AI to create custom and tailored career plans for you with courses and materials and things that you need to know. It can teach you pretty much anything and everything that you need. So it's never been easier if you're inside of an organization to actually create a skill-based organization where you can move from one part of the business to another. So I think there's tremendous opportunity that AI can bring to organizations as far as insight, as far as data, learning, growth, understanding people. And that's not even talking about doing some of the actual work itself. Removing a lot of the mundane aspects of work that employees don't like to do to focus more on the human aspects of work, the critical thinking, the collaboration, the creative elements in there. So there's massive potential.
So many ways that it is helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
I see all of that. What about how is it harmful to the employee experience?
So I guess there are two different angles we could take. One is around automation and replacing jobs. And another one is around kind of outsourcing critical thinking. And so there's been a lot of debate around the current impact that AI is having around job automation. A lot of stories coming out, whether you look at Amazon or, you name company XYZ, they're letting go of thousands of employees as a result of AI. But the latest studies that I've seen, and one in particular from Vanguard, actually found out that that's not the case. In fact, they found, and this is current state, I'm not, what can happen in the next 3, 5, 10 years, but currently the data does not support that AI is actually being responsible for AI automation. In fact, in the roles that have highest exposure to AI, those roles are actually growing, not just in terms of demand, but they're also growing in terms of how much the people in those roles are getting paid.
Wow.
And so if it were true that AI was replacing those jobs, you would see shrinking compensation and you would see shrinking labor pools in those areas. And the Vanguard study, which anybody can find, I covered it on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, shows the exact opposite, that we're not seeing that automation. Now, again, what will happen over the coming years, that's a whole different conversation that we can have. But right now, that story does not seem to be accurate, what you might be reading in some of the media outlets out there.
But that is a fear, and probably the fear itself is a hindrance inside of organizations to adopting AI. Yeah,
and it's for sure a realistic fear. I think it's a fear that you should have. But at the same time, so AI is always a double-edged sword. Yes, on the one hand, you can be scared that it's going to replace your job. But the flip side of that is you can also use AI to very quickly upskill yourself and to move into another area.
Yeah.
So maybe, again, you're in marketing or maybe you're on the manufacturing floor and you're scared that a bot is going to come in and take in your job. And, likely will. But it doesn't mean you just have to stand there and do nothing. When you have a moment of fear, that is the time when you should be preparing to make a pivot into something else.
Yes.
Don't just stand there and wait. And with the tools and resources you have at your disposal with AI, you can learn anything. You can move into any area that you want. You can demonstrate the skills that you have by building something with these AI tools without having to know how to code. Like, you have the opportunity, if you're willing to take advantage of it and put in the time, to move into other areas. And we've never had this kind of an opportunity and possibility before. So there's pros. It's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah.
On the critical thinking side, the way that it can hurt employee experience is when we outsource critical thinking. And what I mean by that is, I talk to CHROs all the time, and I'm always worried when they say, oh yeah, we're deploying these AI tools out to everybody, to our entire workforce of 40,000 or 80,000 employees. And one of the futures that I talk about in the book is this algorithmic universe. And in the algorithmic universe, what happens is that you notice that all the emails seem a little bit more polished. The presentations seem a little bit better. The arguments and the way that people are framing conversation, like everything is perfect.
Yeah.
But the challenge is that what happens is that humans are becoming the physical manifestation of the bots. And so what that means is, let's say I'm getting ready to go into a meeting and our company's deciding, should we go in this strategic direction, A or B? I go into ChatGPT, I upload all the documents, and I say, make me a bulletproof argument for why our company should absolutely go in direction A. I have somebody else on my team who goes into ChatGPT, uploads the same documents, and says, make me a bulletproof argument for why we should go in direction B. And so now what happens is we show up to this meeting. I have the arguments from ChatGPT for argument A. My colleague has the arguments from ChatGPT for direction B. And so now what we're doing is we're just reading a script that ChatGPT gave us. There's no critical thinking. There's no challenging. We're not pushing each other. We're just kind of becoming the voice boxes of something like ChatGPT. And so that very much worries me, that we are going to be so reliant on these tools that we're going to forget about the human aspect of work. And so that I think is the largest potential negative threat to employee experience. We just roll this out to everybody without thinking about the consequences or potential repercussions as a result of doing so.
How do organizations solve for that?
I think simply put is you teach employees and leaders that these things are just tools.
Yeah.
And that you shouldn't be relying on them. So
it's about reliance, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, if I'm a leader and I know my employees are using AI to get work done, leaders need to be trained to know how to have conversations with employees when they know employees are using AI. So meaning if I'm on a marketing team and my employee submits a marketing plan or a draft for a client and they used AI, as a leader, I need to be able to go to my employee and say, hey, did you use AI for this? And they'll say, yes, I did. And I'll say, great. Did you find that AI made any mistakes? What did you contribute to this above and beyond AI?
Yeah.
What are some of the areas where you think maybe AI missed? Do you think it made any mistakes? Do you agree with everything that the AI gave you here? And so now what I'm doing is I'm pulling out your analysis, your critical thinking, your human judgment. And I'm saying it's okay that you used AI, but I want to hear what you think about it.
What were your prompts?
What were your prompts? What did you put into AI?
Right.
How were you thinking about this when you used AI?
Yeah.
Because the other danger that we have is when we become so reliant on AI, and as we know, AI is not perfect. It can hallucinate. It can make tiny mistakes. And so over time, if you compound tiny little mistakes that AI can make over thousands of employees, over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years,
Right.
When you change a ship or a plane's direction by, even 1 degree or 2 degrees, that can be a big difference as far as where your destination goes. And so if you're not aware that AI is making these very tiny changes, these very tiny mistakes when you use it, all of a sudden you're going to look back a year later and you're going to realize you're completely off course. So that to me is a big worry as well. So employees need to be accountable and responsible that if you use AI to do the work, you're still accountable and responsible for the work.
Yeah.
You still need to check it. And so if I'm your leader and you give me something that AI created and I find mistakes and issues, you can't say, it's what ChatGPT gave this. Nope. You did it. ChatGPT is a tool.
Right.
You did it. You're responsible. You're accountable for it. You're on the line. You go tell the client you screwed up, not me. And as a leader, again, I think we need to learn how to have conversations with employees to pull out kind of the human aspects of work.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to it starts with you. It's a law number 6. It's strong leadership across all of these. I mean, regardless of how the future unfolds, we need leaders who are willing to engage in hard conversations and hold people accountable and say like, hey, I screwed up, or I don't know, or that transparency is something I hear over and over.
Yeah. And to be honest, during and post-pandemic, a lot of employees were cowards. A lot of leaders were cowards, quite honestly. And I've called many of them out and I've had conversations with them and I say, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do it? I didn't want people to come after me. I didn't want people. So, it's only now 5 years post-pandemic that we see a lot of leaders coming out and being honest about the standards that they want to create, about the culture that they want to create. We were so over-indexed on empathy, which again, empathy is important, but it needs to be used in the context of other things. But we were so concerned with safe spaces and empathy and making sure your needs are met and making you happy that we neglected the performance aspect of work, the standards, the accountability, the responsibility. Mm-hmm. And when I would ask him, a lot of leaders were scared to come forward and say, this is the kind of company that we want. This is what it's expected of you. You need to work hard. You need to make occasional sacrifices. You need to go above and beyond. We were scared to say that because if you did, people would look at you and say, you're insensitive. You're rude. You don't have any empathy, or, accuse you of who knows what. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And we forgot that the core aspect of work is mutually beneficial value exchange.
I think of it like when you're in crisis and you just don't know what to do and you're paralyzed. And it's almost like that crisis mentality just continued to stay with us. There was never like a recognition like, okay, we also have a business to run right now. And so I am going to see you, and this is what has to happen. Like, these are the expectations.
Yeah.
It's not take all the time you need. It is like, in the next couple of weeks, like, here is the deadline. And so let's work together to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah. The accountability and responsibility is coming back. And in fact, I just put up an article on my Substack that said 2026 is the year of accountability. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's necessary. I think it's crucial.
I do too. And it's what I hear you saying too. I love how you highlight the balance. I mean, it's like the pendulum swung. And I mean, even the way you call out empathic excellence, I love that phrase. I think that's so good. That denotes accountability and seeing people. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive. Actually, like, used in combination, really powerful leadership.
Yep. And you're right. The pendulum was very much in the side of employees. It was probably like 90% employees and 10% of organizations. I think a much healthier balance is usually when it's like 70% organizations and 30% employees. Because who's taking the risk? Who's taking the responsibility? Who's making the investments? Who's paying your salaries and your benefits? Who's giving you your bonuses? Who's doing all that stuff? It's not you. As the employee, you are investing your time. You are investing energy, you're investing your brain power, you're investing, creativity, but the risk is not on you. The risk is on the employer, who has to make investments in you and getting you to stay there, right? So yes, the organization should always have more power than the employee. Now, it doesn't mean they should ignore the employee. It doesn't mean they should be mean to the employee or disrespectful to the employees. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't take employee feedback. But ultimately, the organization should have more control over shaping what is best for the organization. It just shouldn't be 50-50, right? I mean, I have two kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old. It's not 50-50 with my kids.
That's a great analogy.
Right? If my kids want ice cream for dinner, it's not a debate. It's not like a 50, well, you said no, Dad, but me and my sister, we said yes, so we win. Absolutely not.
Well, and the thing it's 70-30 in shaping the organization, right? That's the thing.
Yes.
So like with your kid analogy, in shaping what happens with the family.
Yeah.
The strategic direction, the overall, the culture,
Yeah, and I listen to my kids. I don't ignore them. I don't yell at them or berate them.
That's their 30%.
Yeah, I'm very encouraging and loving, and I do all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, if I say, go make your bed, or if I say, it's bedtime, it's bedtime. Or it's not a debate in a conversation about this. Like, there's rules in the house and you need to follow them. Obviously, the difference is if, they don't follow things, I'm not going to, kick them out of the house and say you're fired. But, like my 5-year-old son, he's really into like STEM. And so I got him this toy on Amazon that's supposed to come in the next few days. And it's like this little STEM kit that he has to put together. And he's like, oh, I'm so excited to get the toy. And I'm like, you're confused. He's like, what do you mean? The toy's coming on Wednesday. I said, the toy's coming on Wednesday, but you're not getting it on Wednesday. And he's like, why not? I said, the toy will be here on Wednesday and you can look at that toy. But until you earn it and behave in the way that you need to behave in this house, you are not going to be getting it. And we went over exactly what that means.
Expectations.
Making your bed, eating breakfast, not being whiny and complaining, doing the things that you need to do, and then you get it, right? So it's not, you just get it because you're asking for it. You have to, even as a 5-year-old,
you have to earn it.
I don't expect you to pay for it, but you need to behave in a way that your mom and your dad are kind of setting the tone for the house. The same thing is true at work, right? I mean, it should not be 50-50.
It's an incredible analogy, and it gets back to how entitlement culture is created.
Yeah.
Is when we're giving without the earning.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And I think that's very much what happened during and post-pandemic. I mean, if you think about it, it is insane that a lot of employees were saying, hey, by the way, I want more money. I want to make more than my boss's boss. I want more compensation. I want to get a benefits and a bonus package. I don't want to work, more than 40 hours a week. And by the way, I never want to come into the office. Are you crazy? Like, what? And guess what's going to happen when the organization is going through a tough time? And when they need to let go of employees? Who's going to be the first person they let go? It's going to be you. So don't be confused as an employee that when you show up to work that you're the one with the negotiating power, that you are, right? I mean, you can give feedback, you can share your ideas, and you should feel listened to and you should feel respected, but the organization is under no obligation to do the things that you tell it to do. It's not the company's responsibility to engage you. It's not the company's responsibility to make you happy. It's not the company's responsibility to make sure you never get offended. It's not the company's responsibility to make sure that you never go above and beyond or make sacrifices or put in more than 40 hours a week. That is not the company's responsibility.
So the book is also a mindset shift for employees. It's a recognition.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. For sure. I mean, employees have, one of the big challenges that I always had with organizations is they would say, well, what's the organization's responsibility for employee engagement and happiness and all that stuff? I would say, what is the employee's responsibility, not just the employer's, right? We always talk about it as if it's the company's responsibility to give you purpose and meaning and to make you happy. What's your responsibility as the employee showing up every day? Can you do whatever you want? Can you smoke and drink and eat junk food and play video games and not go outside and gamble and drink and just show up to work and say, I'm disengaged and I'm lonely and I don't have any friends, like fix me? No, that's not how life works. So what's your responsibility as an employee? You need to make sure that you have your life in order. You need to show up and volunteer to take on projects. You need to get feedback from your leaders and managers. You need to volunteer for stretch assignments. You need to solve problems, not just point them out. You also have a lot of responsibility in shaping your employee experience. But if you show up to work and think that everybody's going to do everything for you and that you're just kind of this passive victim floating around in the company and you're just unhappy, oh man, you're going to have, I think, especially for 2026, a very big mindset shift. Otherwise, you're not going to have a job. I think it's just that simple.
Well, and that's not good for anyone.
No.
I mean, that just doesn't even feel good, right? I mean, there's an exercise that I do. I ask leaders about their personal best leadership experience. And I facilitated it thousands and thousands of times. And every time, it's always a significant challenge. And one of the things the exercise highlights is that we love a good challenge. We want to rise to. You give me a set of expectations that are clear. I want to rise to that. That structure is so helpful to me.
Absolutely.
So there's this myth that, if I give them all the flexibility and if I give them all the ownership, like, no, they don't know. Help them figure out how to be successful in this structure.
And I'm all for that. The coaching, the mentoring, employees should be able to go to their leaders and say, hey, look, I really want to grow in this company.
Yeah.
Like, help me. Give me feedback. What should I do? What should I learn? I'm willing.
Hence the grow or go.
Yeah, I'm willing to do what I need to do. It's kind of like, put me in, coach.
Yeah.
But it's also really interesting because all the leaders that I've had on my podcast, CEOs, CHROs, top executives, they put in 70, 80, 90 hours a week. They give up weekends. They do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's unreal. And so this is, I think, a lot of leaders, from what I hear, it's so annoying when you as a leader have to make all these sacrifices and you have employees who complain to you.
Yes.
Right? Oh, I got to get dressed and show up to work. Oh, man, can't I just do this from home?
Yes, I feel that fully.
It's like, are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, I've talked to CEOs on my podcast who had to live separately from their families for weeks on end because they were living, they were doing work. They were local, but they had to spend so much time on meetings with overseas companies and overseas partners that they had to literally rent a house separately from their family because they were doing phone calls at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning, and it would wake everybody up. So, don't tell me that you're complaining that you need to put on clothes and commute. Right? I mean, I had to commute an hour and a half to work, 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week.
Yeah.
And so the difference there is I did that for a while and then I didn't want to do it and I left and I did something else.
Yeah.
If you don't like something inside your company, you don't like the commute, you don't like your leader, you don't like your manager, you have a couple choices.
Yeah.
Right? The first choice you have is you do nothing and you just shut up and show up every day and you're just kind of miserable. Second option is you try to fix it, right? You try to have an honest and open conversation with your leader. You try to see if you can fix it. You decide, is this the company that I want to fight for? Just like any relationship. If you're in a relationship and you get in an argument, are you going to end the relationship right away? Or are you going to say, you know what? We got into an argument. It's all good. Right. Like, we figured it out. I'm fighting for this relationship. I'm going to do whatever it takes because I want to be here.
Yeah.
And so you have choices of things that you can do, or leave.
You get to decide. Yeah.
Leave. Mm-hmm. If you are that miserable, get out. Mm-hmm. Go look for something else. Go build something yourself. But the worst thing that you can do is to just show up every day and complain. Mm-hmm. Right? That is the worst thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. So I really want people to take away from this that you have more agency and accountability over your experience than you think. And you need to take advantage of it. Life is short. So I get it. If you don't like your job, you don't like your company,
own it.
Do something about it, right? You have choices.
Yeah. And it's disempowering to expect the organization to fix it for you.
Of course.
Yeah. And it never feels good. Mm-hmm.
You can give feedback and you can have the conversations, but you can't force anybody to do anything.
Never.
And there have been a lot of organizations who got feedback from employees and they made changes, or leaders who've given feedback. Like I have a small team of people that I work with. They've given me feedback numerous times. I ask them all the time, what can I do better? And they'll tell me, well, sometimes you just throw so many things at us because you share everything that's on your mind. And it's just kind of like, we don't know what to do. And I say, okay, great. Thank you for the feedback. Mm-hmm. But if I would keep doing that and bombarding them with just random thoughts and do this and do that, and there's no direction, at some point, some of them would be like, Jacob, look, it's been great to work together, but I can't, I don't know what you want. I can't do it. I got to go. Right?
Yeah.
So we all have some agency and control over our experiences and the choices that we make, and we need to realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you said, a lot more than we often give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
So read the book and identify what you can do where you are with your span of influence. I mean, that would be the goal. So yeah, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking like, gosh, I wish my leader would read this, or I wish my HR person would read this, like, what can you do?
Read it first before giving it to your leader so that you're not kind of, make sure you understand.
What can you do?
Yep.
Okay. Well, tell us, like, where can we find the book? Where can we find you?
So a couple different places. The URL for the book is the number 8exlaws.com. That's 8exlaws.com. My website is thefutureorganization.com. And then my email, if anybody wants to challenge me or disagree with me or send me negative comments, Jacob at thefutureorganization.com. I welcome any and all comments and feedback.
Well, yeah, because you want the dialogue, don't you? I mean, I love your bold point of view. What is what kind of argument would you get to this?
I don't know. People might say, oh, it's too mean. Companies have been taking advantage of employees for a long time. Or, a lot of the arguments that I typically get are more passive, victim-y, woe is me comments.
Right. Yeah.
And I just don't have much patience for those at all. I mean, I have immigrant parents who came from the Republic of Georgia, who didn't speak any English, who, cleaned toilets and who had no money and
worked really hard.
So when I hear those types of arguments of like, well, you don't understand, I have to commute to the office and I have to do this. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah. It's challenge.
You don't want to do it. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. Go move somewhere else where it's more affordable. Go do something else. I try to be very empathetic when I can to employees who are genuinely going through difficult times and situations and circumstances. But if you're not willing to put in the time, the effort, the resources, the creativity, the hard work, and you're complaining about it, then it's very difficult for me to take your argument seriously.
Yeah. 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 It's both can be true.
Yeah.
The situation can suck and there is opportunity to do something different always.
Yeah. And I've been in those situations. I've had lots of situations that sucked. I know what it's like to work at a terrible job. I think at the time I was making like $50,000-$60,000 a year with my first job out of college. And I quit and I went to go work at a clothing store where I was making, I don't know, $10, $12 an hour. So it wasn't beneath me or below me to do that.
Yeah.
I've worked in a movie theater. I've cleaned bathrooms in a movie theater. I've done all that stuff. I've worked at Whole Foods. I've worked as a grocery clerk. I've been working since I was 15 or 16 years old. And in any job that I've ever had, I've always tried to figure out what I can do to learn something to get to the kind of the next thing. So yeah, the victim-y stuff, I just
no time for, no patience. There's too much opportunity.
Yeah, the world is a big place. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of change happening. And so you have a choice. You can either sit there and complain about all the things that aren't going right for you, or you can try to figure out where are the opportunities? Where are some things going right for me and doubling down on those? And sometimes you have to make sacrifices to get what you want. Be
a potential spotter, I say. There's always potential.
Yep.
The 8 laws of employee experience, how to build a future-ready organization. It's going to be good.
I hope so. I hope people like it.
It's going to be good. Thank you for bringing them to life for us today with so much passion and energy.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Jacob. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Let's connect to go a bit deeper. How can I help you? Looking for an executive coach, a facilitator for a team or leader engagement, or a high energy, heartfelt speaker? Learn more and connect with me through our website at abundantempowerment.com. I look forward to co-creating something magical with you.